Hi. Wow. When was the last time I saw you? It's been like, I think it's been like 5 months. Oh my god, wait, hi, come on. I have like so much to tell you. So I was just about to light my candle, right? And stuff. So I have someone to catch you up on. So let's go. Bro, I don't even know how did they. Hi. um yeah, so it's been a while since we caught up. So let's talk. Giving you a better view. Yeah, this is July. It's the middle of the year. So basically I think we're just going to make this a really quick one. I started off this year. Um you know what? Scratch that. So happy middle of the year, if that's a thing. Happy middle of the year. I'm not supposed to smell scented candle. My friends have been warning me at this point. They regret gifting me this candle, but it's fine. We're at the middle of the year or past the middle mark, and I think a big thing for me that I have been learning is this thing of just rest. So these are a couple of things that I learned coming around this space of just resting. We're going to go over 3 things. I would say the first thing would be setting structures. And I always thought that for me, having disciplines or structures in place just meant that I was constricted, or it just didn't allow me to do what I wanted. And somehow that translated to me just not being fulfilled. Trash that mindset. A friend gave this analogy to me once. You know who you are, shout out to you. Of if you have a building and you want to get to the other side of the building, it's either you drive around the building or you walk through the building. You are not going to come and bulldoze that building away, except you're mad. But sorry. Anyway, so it's that sense of have things in place that are immovable. And obviously, number one would be your quiet time that you show up to God. I'm going to be using a lot of analogies, right? Just to help give you a more visual perspective. Another person gave me this analogy and it never left me, of how if you go to a well to draw water to drink, and you're drinking it over time you're drinking water, you're far less likely to get thirsty as opposed to someone who waits till they are thirsty before they actually go to drink water. And it's just that sense of showing up to God, intentionally setting structures to show up to God. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect or I've gotten this figured out, but for me it's more or less been a rhythm where I realize, oh, I'm swinging out of balance. I think that I haven't spent as much time with God as I'm supposed to, or something else is basically just taking that space. 1 Peter 3:15 says, set apart the Lord in your hearts. What does that mean? Set apart the Lord. Allow God to have his place. That's just speaking to one part of the structures that we can set. Another structure for me that I also just come to learn not to move has been my sleep. To be honest, if you have control over your sleep, I think it's something that you should really just take seriously. I say if you have control over your sleep because there are people who don't necessarily have control over their sleep, like essential workers, and they have to walk around the clock. If you have control over your sleep, it is something that you should take seriously. Be your mind. So I know one thing for me that I help to declutter my mind is journaling. Every morning, it's basically, from me personally, how I pray to God. That can really look different for you, but it's basically like, I would say, a soul check for me. So all round, physically, spiritually, in my mind, there are structures that I set in place, and I try not to move, so I'm far less likely to hit a space of burnout or feeling parched, and for you that can really look different in your context. And just living off that space of setting apart God in your heart. The second thing that has brought me to a space of rest is knowing God. Earlier this year, when I was studying Hebrews, I was studying where it said that the Israelites could not enter rest because of unbelief, which was basically lack of faith. Then there's another verse in Psalms, I think 103 or 104, which really just says Moses knew the ways of God, but the Israelites, they knew the acts. So the Israelites knew the acts of God, and Moses knew the ways of God. And just simply to break that down, the root word of ways basically means to know someone's manner of thinking, the way they would do something. So it's kind of like maybe you would hear that one of your friends did something and you're like, okay, this is this person. This is this person. You hear that someone says something and you'll be like, oh, that sounds like that person. So Moses entered that level of relationship with God where he was able to know the ways of God. But the Israelites were familiar with the acts, with the big things, with the spectacular things that God did. Oh, the mountain is shaking. Oh, there's a cloud. But they didn't know the heart of God. And truly, God was inviting them into that space of, hey, come and know my heart. And it really infuriated God a lot of times because he was really just inviting them into that space of relationship. But it was just that sense of distance. We see instances where God was angry and he was so grieved because he just really wanted a relationship with these people. He wanted the people to know him. They just stopped at that sense of, you're just this big God. This is what you can do. And they didn't know the heart of God. They didn't know his ways. They didn't know his manner of thinking. They didn't know the heart behind why he was doing some things. And in Exodus 33:13, basically, it's the verse on my shirt. Moses prayed this powerful prayer where he said that I may know you and I may know your ways. And in the verse after that, God said, so I will give you my rest. And here's something that I got to understand, that it's not so much about the power or having a lot of power or effort to trust God, but it comes into that space of revelation. God revealing himself to you, receiving a fresh revelation of who God is, because surrender would come easier when you know who you are releasing to. So if God is asking you to release something that you're worrying about, release something that has been on your mind and you're just fighting, it ultimately just boils down to a space of you don't know God enough as someone who is good enough to take care of you. That was the prayer that Moses prayed, that I would know you and I would know your ways. In other words, I would know your heart. I would know why you do things. I would know your manner of thinking. Eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, it hasn't entered into the understanding of man, the things that God has prepared for those who love him. The next verse goes on to say, but the Spirit has revealed these things unto us. So we get to know the way that God thinks. We get to know the things that other people don't know, because this Holy Spirit living inside of us as believers has revealed these things unto us. So practically, what does that mean? Coming into that space of learning to rest for me has always come to a space of I need to go back to God, to rediscover God as I'm worried about my future. I need to recognize God as someone who has gone ahead of me. And it would really just come into a space of showing up to my quiet time more, going to church, really having faith-filled conversations, knowing God more as a person and being familiar with his heart, so I can say, yes, God is truly for me. The third thing I would say is that enjoying my seasons. I think for me, I would always just post dates. We're in school, we're thinking, I can't wait till I graduate. I can't wait till I leave my parents' house. Whatever form that takes for you. I can't wait to have a job. I can't wait to do this. And it's good to look to beautiful seasons. It's good to look to seasons ahead, but a lot of times I think post-dating just robs us of the fulfillment, robs us of seeing God for us and with us right here and now. For me, I've just come to recognize that there is beauty in every season that I'm in, keeping my eyes on Jesus. Tomorrow can't come except we live through today. There are seasons ahead that we can't step into except we become who God wants us to become, and that would have to be just walking through processes in today. And I'm not saying that it's going to be an entirely beautiful thing. It will come with challenges of itself, but I just think for me, living a fuller life has just come to understand that there is beauty in every season, there is purpose in every season, and I get to enjoy my seasons right here and now. Realistically, I am in a school that is on strike, And would I very much like to graduate? Yes, I have dreams and plans. Like it's like I see things that God has ahead of me, and it's like I so desperately want to grasp them and have them. But if I have that heart posture of just there is more there and there is nothing here, then I begin to become robbed of the vision of what God is doing in the here and now. I begin to become dissatisfied. I begin to lose sight of God, because God is as much in my future as He is with me here. God is not more in my future than He is in this season with me. I used to be very impatient with either myself, with God, with people around me, because I just felt I'm someone who dreams and sees possibilities. So sometimes I just tend to live in that space of what if, rather than right now. And so it's a tension, right? You don't want to live so much in the now that you're robbed of the vision of the future, of the more to grow into, of the more to step into. But you also don't want to live so much in the future that you're just going through the motions today. It's a healthy tension. You want to have the right perspective of today and the right perspective of tomorrow. And ultimately, that has just positioned me in the space of rest, that God is in control of. God is not caught unaware. There's also something that I got to learn recently, that God reserves the right to work what He wants to work in me in a non-linear, progressive fashion. God doesn't need to, I don't need to spend 4 years in school. I would like to. Oops. And then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, because that's the timeline that society has drawn up for my life. God reserves the right to make me into who He wants to make me, even if it's going in a fashion that looks non-linear, if you understand what I mean. So for me, ultimately, that has just brought me into like literally a hard posture of rest. Like I said, there are sometimes it's like a pendulum. Sometimes I realize, oh yes, I'm entering that space of where I'm losing my trust in God, I'm losing my vision. I'm just becoming intensely dissatisfied. I just return to God, return to the well, and I draw from the well. I just basically, the simple things, ensure that my structures are not being moved. I show up to God. And I think for me, this year has been beautiful. I have gotten around having new friendships that I normally would not have. I'm super excited for who I would be becoming. I'm super excited for more of God that I would get to know, because I think of it like an onion. God is not an onion, but I think of it like an onion. There's just layers and layers and layers that God would reveal Himself to me. So I'm just really super excited. And yeah, thanks for coming to my presentation. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I hope that the last half of the year was beautiful, but even more than that, I hope that the next half of the year is even going to be more beautiful for you. So yeah, I will see you whenever I see you. So I drop anchor in your shadow. Your presence is my present, my treasure. So much better than silver or gold. So let the